Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this evening's semi-final debate. My name is Moira Petralis and I'm the chairman of this debate. The timekeeper is Brian Kang. This debate will be judged by a panel of 3 adjudicators who are Mr. Parasilidis, Miss Khalid and Miss Harana. The topic of this debate is that Julian Assange should be freed. The affirmative team seated to my right is from Sacred Heart College. The negative team seated to my left is from Pembroke. The speaking time for this debate is 5 minutes. A single warning bell will sound 1 minute before the speaking time, and a double bell will sound at the speaking time. Please ensure that your mobile phones are switched off. I declare this debate open and call upon the first affirmative speaker, Annalise Pittman.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Julian Assange should be freed. We as the affirmative team believe that this statement is indubitably true. We define the topic as Julian Assange, an Australian editor, publisher and activist who founded WikiLeaks in 2006. WikiLeaks is an international non-profit organisation that publishes new leaks and classified media provided by anonymous sources. Julian is convicted of violating the Espionage Act for his role in publishing secret military and diplomatic documents. He is currently in solitary confinement on remand in Belmarsh High Security Prison and could be sentenced to 175 years of solitary confinement under the US government, according to the United States Department of Justice. According to the Oxford Dictionary, we define should as indicating a desirable or expected state, and freed is defined as not being under the control or in the power of another, able to act or do as one wishes. Therefore, we as the affirmative team believe that Julian Assange should be freed. Today, I will be talking to you about how a precedent for this case already exists, and the time does not fit the crime. Secondly, Julian Assange was bringing light to the atrocities of the US government and simply exercising his right to the First Amendment. Grace, our second speaker, will talk to you about how he has already done his time inhumanely and that he is not a threat to society due to what the UN believes. Our third speaker, Kaylin, will rebut and sum up our team case. On to my first point. There is a precedent for this case and the time does not fit the crime. According to Britannica, Chelsea Manning, born Bradley Manning, was a US intelligence analyst who delivered hundreds of thousands of classified documents. She gave much of this information to WikiLeaks. She was only sentenced to 35 years in prison. However, President Barack Obama commuted the remainder of her sentence and she was released from prison in May 2017. According to The Guardian, Edward Snowden will go down in history as being one of the most significant leakers in the US. He is responsible for handing over material from the National Security Agency, but defends his actions by claiming that he couldn't, in good conscience, allow the US government to destroy privacy, internet freedom, and basic liberties for people around the world. In October 2020, he was granted permanent residency in Russia, where he now resides with his wife and children. He is living as a free man. Meanwhile, Assange risks extradition to the US, where he faces a 175-year sentence, which is a clear violation of the 8th Amendment, which prevents the government from imposing cruel and unusual punishment on criminal defendants. Judge Brysida claims that Julian Assange is certain to lose his life if he is extradited. Both Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning were acting similarly to Julian and were let off much more lightly for their actions. How is this fair? Now on to my second point. Julian Assange was bringing light to the atrocities of the US government and simply exercising his right to the First Amendment, which states, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances, according to constitution.congress.gov. People can express an opinion, even an unpopular or unsavoury one. According to the BBC, the documents that Julian Assange leaked revealed that 66,000 civilians had been killed in the Iraq War. That is an astounding 15,000 more than previously reported to the public. More than 250,000 messages were sent by US diplomats, which revealed that the US aimed to gather iris scans, DNA samples, and fingerprints of key officials at the UN. Assange was bringing light to the atrocities of the US troops as well as the US government's crimes against humanity. Julian Assange stated, "The goal is an endless war, nor a successful war. Shouldn't civilians have the right to know what their government is doing in their name?" So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we as the Affirmative team believe that Julian Assange should be freed. A precedent for this case already exists, and Julian Assange's time does not fit the crime. Also, he was bringing light to the atrocities of the US government and simply exercising his right to the First Amendment, letting citizens know the truth. Thank you.
I call upon the first negative speaker, James Lee.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that Julian Assange should be freed. We agree with the Affirmative team's definition. However, as the negative team, we strongly disagree with the statement. The first Affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that Assange has exposed the atrocities of the US government and he deserves to be freed. However, Assange's intent was not to be a humanitarian, as his goals were simply to spread and leak as many documents as he could. This is agreed upon by political analysts across BBC. Furthermore, the fact that he leaked atrocities of the US government is not simply an excuse for freeing him. Assange is a dangerous criminal who has also leaked personal information, such as the names of child rape victims, as our second speaker will talk about. As the first speaker, I will be speaking about how Julian Assange's leaks strained US international relations, along with the vital activities of governments in multiple countries. Secondly, I will be speaking about how Assange is nothing more than a criminal, and how he should not be exempt from suffering the consequences of all the laws that he broke. Our second speaker, Luca, will be speaking about the links between WikiLeaks and the suspected tampering of the 2016 election, as well as how Assange leaked personal information of innocent civilians, as well as the names of 2 child rape victims. Our third speaker, Spiridon, will rebut and sum up our team case. My first point is that Julian Assange should not be freed because his leaks caused damage to national security by straining US international relations. Assange set up WikiLeaks in 2006 with the aim of obtaining and publishing confidential documents and images. The United States diplomatic cables leak, widely known as Cablegate, began on Sunday, 28th of November 2010, when WikiLeaks began releasing classified cables or messages that had been sent to the US State Department by 274 of its consulates, embassies, and diplomatic missions around the world. The result of these leaks was extreme outrage from all of the countries involved, most notably Afghanistan and Mexico. An article by The Guardian states that the finance minister of Afghanistan warned that leaks would damage his country's relations with the United States government and that there would no longer be business as usual. Mexico had a similar reaction, as the Sydney Morning Herald quotes that the Mexican president, Felipe Calderon, said that the United States diplomatic cables criticizing Mexico's anti-drug fight had caused severe damage to its relationship with the United States and suggested tensions had risen so dramatically that he could no longer work with the American ambassador in his country. Furthermore, the White House issued a statement saying the leak puts at risk our diplomats, intelligence professionals, and people around the world who come to the United States for assistance in promoting democracy and open government. There is no doubt that the reaction and impact caused by WikiLeaks is universally negative. The man who coordinated these leaks and did not give any concern for the political impact absolutely should not be pardoned. Now onto my second point, which is that Assange should not be freed because he broke numerous laws and should not be exempt from receiving the consequences. The New York Times stated, Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks leader, was indicted on 17 counts of violating the Espionage Act for his role in obtaining and publishing secret military and diplomatic documents in 2010. Although the First Amendment shields journalists from liability for what they publish, it does not shield them from criminal liability, such as the Espionage Act. The Book law firm site states that if you are convicted of gathering and delivering defense information in order to aid a foreign government, you could be sentenced to life in prison or face a death sentence. As a man who was convicted of espionage 17 times, in no way, shape, or form does he deserve to walk free. Furthermore, ABC News states that Assange was convicted of violating the Computer Misuse Act when he helped American activist Chelsea Manning steal passwords and hack into the American government system to then leak hundreds of thousands of classified documents, including a video of the Apache helicopter strike that killed Iraqi insurgents and 2 photographers working for Reuters. Julian Assange is nothing but a criminal, and there is no reason why he should not complete the confinement he was sentenced to for his crimes. In conclusion, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it is clear that Julian Assange should not be freed because his actions cause severe damage to US international relations, and he has broken countless laws regardless of his title as a journalist. Thank you.
I call upon the second affirmative speaker, Grace Dorrans.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Julian Assange should be freed. We, the Affirmative team, strongly believe that this topic is undeniably true. The first negative speaker has tried to tell you that Assange leaked private information, causing strains between countries' relationships. Although this may be seen as true, Julian Assange was simply bringing light to the atrocities committed. As our first speaker, Annalise, has already stated, the crimes committed in the Iraq War are devastating, and it is of the rights of the people and allies of that country to know how their government is representing them. A quote from BB News states, "Further documents from the Iraq War revealed 66,000 civilians had been killed, more than previously reported." Furthermore, Assange should be released as he simply published the information. Chelsea Manning, who actually leaked the information, had signed a contract to keep the information confidential, yet she has her sentence reduced to 30 years, compared to Assange's 175 years, showing this point to be invalid. The first negative speaker has also tried to tell you that he committed the crimes, therefore should not be released. This is irrefutably incorrect due to the fact that Julian Assange has in fact done the time. Since April 2019, Assange has been in solitary confinement with nothing, not even a book, to kill his time. Assange is being psychologically tortured and has been for 3 years. He should be released because he has done the time in these completely inhumane conditions. I will talk about this more in my first point. Today, our first speaker, Annalise, has already talked to you about how there is a precedent for this case. Therefore, the time does not fit the crime. She also spoke about how Julian Assange was bringing light to the atrocities of the US government and simply exercising his rights of the First Amendment. Today, as second speaker, I will be talking to you about how Julian Assange has already served his time and that the entire United Nations believe he should be freed. And our third speaker, Annalise, will rebut and sum up our case. Now to my first point. Julian Assange has served his time and suffered inhumane conditions. According to Insider.org, Assange is currently being kept in the Belmarsh High Security Prison, in solitary confinement. He's locked up for 23 hours a day, allowed no association with other prisoners, severely restricted access to lawyers, friends, or family. Spending hours on end with nothing but his thoughts, Assange is at an incredible risk of mental health disorders, including depression, after already facing suicidal thoughts. New York Times states, there would be a substantial risk that he would kill himself if he were to be extradited. Julian Assange has suffered these conditions for 3 years. Assange should not be freed as he should be freed as he has served his time and done so in these undoubtedly torturing conditions. Furthermore, Assange is also experiencing torturous living conditions. The single cell he is confined to is only 2 meters wide and long, significantly smaller than an average horse stable. According to Euro.news, Assange should be released and say the conditions in prison are breaching his human rights as they are completely inhumane. This was supported when an inspection conducted for the Belmarsh prison when in the category treated with their human dignity decreased to not sufficiently good, stated by Insider.org. Julian Assange should be freed as he has served his time, especially taking into consideration the treacherous conditions he's had to endure. Now to my second point, that Julian Assange should be free due to the fact that the entire United Nations believe so. The United Nations is an intergovernmental organisation aiming to maintain international peace and security. It represents 193 countries. The UN have made public that they believe Julian Assange should be free. A quote from BBC.news states, "The WikiLeaks founder now has an important panel of UN legal experts on his side. If the UN itself, representing almost all of the world, believes that Assange should be freed, there is no doubt he should." An example from our Zero.org states, "The Argentina president spoke up saying, 'We call on you to act accordance with the national law and granting Mr. Assange his long-due freedom.'" Also including Australia, after Labour Party leader Anthony Albanese stated he, on behalf of Australia, believed Assange should walk free. This goes just to show how many countries support Assange's release. Therefore, he should be released. So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the negative team believe that Julian Assange should be freed due to the fact that the confinement is inhumane and the entire United Nations believes so. Thank you.
I call upon the second negative speaker, Lucas Shin.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that Julian Assange should be freed. We, the negative team, strongly believe that this statement is false. Our first speaker, James, has already spoken about how Julian Assange's leaks strained US international relations, including vital relations between USA and Afghanistan, and that Assange is nothing more than a criminal, and that he should not be exempt from suffering the consequences of all the laws that he broke. I will be speaking about how files on WikiLeaks have been linked to the suspected tampering of the 2016 election. I will also be speaking about how the leaks released personal details of innocent civilians, irrelevant to the political nature of the document, including the names of 2 child rape victims. Our third speaker, Spiridon, will rebut and sum up our team's case. Before I continue with my argument, I would like to rebut 2 points from the opposition team. The first affirmative speaker has said that Julian Assange is simply exercising his rights from the First Amendment. This is incorrect, as illegally obtaining government information is not exercising his free rights. This is a misused word, as it has been used by Assange to favor one political party over another, as I'll be speaking in my first point, and also that he has used this to reveal personal information such as credit card numbers and the names of child rape victims. She has also tried to tell you that Julian Assange is not a threat to society. This is incorrect. During the course of his founding of WikiLeaks, he has released multiple documents that has threatened the lives of many people, including US former diplomat, whose details were leaked by WikiLeaks without any relevance to the political nature of the document. Firstly, Julian Assange should not be freed because the files on WikiLeaks were linked to the suspected tampering of the 2016 election. Through revealing this stolen information, Assange is very likely to have played a large role in the 2016 election in favor of President Trump. A very prominent attack where the compromised data was released to the public by Assange on WikiLeaks was the Podesta email data breach. It was a hack conducted by the Fancy Bear, who was suspected by experts such as the UK Foreign Secretary as being connected to the Russian intelligence services run by the Russian government, also known as FSB. Over 20,000 pages of emails from the chair of the Clinton campaign, John Podesta, were breached by the Fancy Bear and then obtained and published by WikiLeaks. This took a huge hit to the Democratic Party, and Trump was fully aware of the power WikiLeaks information had on the result of the election. Trump had direct contact with WikiLeaks from before the Podesta incident, and then praising WikiLeaks via Twitter and in his speech on October 10, 2016. WikiLeaks' role in the 2016 election was so influential that it has been used as evidence in the investigation on the suspected tampering of the 2016 election by Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III into possible coordination between Russia and President Trump's presidential campaign. Furthermore, another set of classified files were released by WikiLeaks from the Democratic National Committee right before the Democratic Convention began in Philadelphia. The leaked files from the Democratic... According to investigations conducted by Mueller, these files were sourced from a separate Russian hacker group with a persona Guccifer 2.0 through the website DC Leaks. This hacker group was also connected to the FSB. In mid-June 2016, Assange bragged in a TV interview from ITV that he had incriminating information regarding Hillary Clinton and that he fully supported Trump's campaign. This obvious link between Assange's WikiLeaks and the likely tampering of the 2016 presidential election shows that Assange is not a free speech activist, but another organization that wishes to use its power to favor one political candidate over another. Secondly, the leaks have released extremely private information, including the names of child rape victims. Assange's direct involvement with WikiLeaks' release of such private information is a disgusting and unforgivable example of why Assange should not be freed. In an interview with Associated Press's Raphael Satter, it was found that the names of 2 teenage rape victims were released in the files leaked in 2015. There have been several thousands of personal details released to the public by WikiLeaks, irrelevant to the political nature of the files. Satter found details of custody battles, missing children reports, elopements, divorces, partners who had sexually transmitted diseases, partners who had AIDS, people who were in debt, in distress, and in all kinds of financial difficulty. The leaked files from the Democratic Convention revealed social security numbers and credit card numbers of over 2 dozen people. The fact that Julian Assange's criminal WikiLeaks organization has been illegally releasing highly personal and sensitive details of innocent, ordinary citizens is evidence to show that Assange is a dangerous criminal who should not be freed. In conclusion, Julian Assange, founder of WikiLeaks, should most certainly not be freed under any circumstances, as his leaks have been suspected of aiding the tampering of the 2016 US election, and his release of thousands of personal details, such as the names of rape victims, to the public, provide irrefutable reason and evidence that Julian Assange should not be freed. Thank you.
I call upon the third affirmative speaker, Caitlin Bailey.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for our debate is that Julian Assange should be freed. We, the affirmative team, strongly believe that this topic is irrefutably true. The first negative speaker has tried to tell you that he has faced 17 accounts, so he shouldn't be freed. Although this may be true, as stated in our definition that you agreed to, he is only found guilty under the US law. Meanwhile, the United Nations, an intergovernmental organisation aiming to maintain international peace and security, believes he should be freed, as stated by elizera.org. The Argentina president even spoke up saying, "We call on you to act in accordance with international and national law, human rights and the rule of law by bringing an end to this ongoing extradition proceeding and granting Mr. Assange his long overdue freedom." Why should one country's self-image overpower the entire United Nations? The first speaker on the negative team has also attempted to convince you that he wasn't bringing light to the atrocities, instead just breaking the law. This is completely false because, as our first speaker Annalise has already told you, the US government was hiding information from civilians that they have the right to know of, and it's not just classified military documents that he released. For example, according to the BBC, further documents released revealed that from the Iraq War, that 66,000 unarmed civilians were killed. That is 15,000 more than they reported. How is it right the government is hiding the fact that they killed thousands of innocent people? These civilians have the right to know what the government is doing in their own name. The first negative speaker has also attempted to tell you that Assange's actions have affected the US government and other government tactics and names. Although the US government say that they may have to change their military tactics, according to NPR.org, later the US government actually responded saying that the damage was generally limited and had faded since the first big WikiLeaks. Furthermore, WikiLeaks has made multiple disclosures over the past decade. And if these leaks were a big issue, they would have begun imprisoning Assange and other employees sooner, even though the company itself, WikiLeaks, is still up and running. The US government should not be using their own power to create a good self-image for themselves, and instead they should free Assange and give him his deserving freedom. This leak of information is clearly not as devastating as it's set up to be in the media, if the US government's only response is locking up only Julian Assange. The second negative speaker has tried to tell you that it is suspected that Julian Assange's leaks were linked to the 2017 election tampering. The key word here is suspected. This point is not proven, and it is merely a conspiracy theory that again has not been proven. The second negative speaker has also tried to tell you that he leaked private information of civilians. Although this may be true, it is a tiny small price to pay for the truth. As our first speaker, Annalise, has already stated, the crimes committed from the US government should be revealed to the public. A quote from the BBC News states, "Further documents from the Iraq War revealed that 66,000 civilians have been killed, more than previously reported. These documents also showed that prisoners had been tortured. Furthermore, Assange should be released as he simply published the information. Chelsea Manning, who actually leaked the information, had signed a contract to keep the information confidential. Yet, her sentence has been reduced and she is now free." Our first speaker, Annalise, has already informed you that the precedent for this case has already been set by people such as Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden, who leaked and published classified material from the US government. And currently, Edward Snowden, he even has a permanent residency in Russia where he lives freely, but Assange is facing 175 years. How is this fair? Furthermore, she has said that Assange was simply bringing light to the atrocities of the US government and exercising his first right to the First Amendment. A civilian should have the right to know what their government is doing. Our second speaker, Grace, has told you that Assange has served his time and experienced inhumane conditions. His human rights have been breached. She's also informed you that the entire United Nations believe he should be freed. The UN is an intergovernmental organisation aiming to maintain international peace. It represents 193 countries. If an international authority believes Assange should be freed, why should one country's preoccupation with their self-image overpower all of them? So, Madam Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we the Affirmative team strongly believe that Assange should be freed because of the reasons we have stated. Thank you.
I call upon the third negative speaker, Spiridon Spiliopoulos.
Good evening, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The topic for tonight's debate is that Julian Assange should be free. We, the negative team, disagree with this statement. Tonight, as third speaker, I will be rebutting and summing up my team's case. But first, I'd like to point out some flaws in the opposition's argument. The first affirmative speaker has tried to tell you that the time does not fit the crime, and she also explained the Edward Snowden case and how it's similar to the Julian Assange one. Edward Snowden was the source of the documents which he stole from the CIA. Edward sent these documents to The Guardian, where these documents were published. The difference between this and Assange is that Julian kept in sensitive information which was leaked. In this document, the sensitive information was kept in deliberately and had very little political relevance, as our second speaker had explained. In the Snowden case, The Guardian removed and censored parts of the document which was sensitive and not relevant. This is the difference between the cases of Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. Julian left in the information which could compromise national security and public health, which is not covered by freedom of speech according to the ICCPR. They have also tried to tell you that Julian is just exercising his right of the First Amendment. This is wrong, because whilst the First Amendment and the freedom of the press does protect Julian from liabilities from what he has published, the documents that Julian Assange published contained extremely sensitive data, which would have endangered civilians. As our second speaker had already explained, Assange leaked details of rape victims and credit card details that were not politically relevant. Contained this document, which is classified as espionage. According to an article in Article 19 in the ICCPR, it states that the rights of freedom of speech require special duties and responsibilities, and therefore may be subjective to certain restrictions when necessary. And it can affect when affecting the reputation of others, the protection of national security, and public health or morals. They also explained, the second affirmative speaker also explained that he had already served his time. Assange's estimated sentence is 175 years. He is a criminal and he needs to suffer the same punishment for anyone that would have committed the same crime as him. They said that Assange has completed his time in prison and that his sentence is overly cruel. Would you say that criminals such as murderers should deserve sympathy because their sentence was harsh? Assange has cost hundreds of people their jobs and relationships with other countries, and he is a dangerous criminal who should spend the maximum time behind bars. They have also made a contradictory statement, as his time isn't completed without intervention, and he will be extradited to the United States and then serve his deserved 175 years. They also said that the government stated that his sentence was not very severe. It does not matter how severe the damage was. Assange is still a criminal with multiple charges that have been put up against him. They also said that the truth is just a small price to pay. However, this truth compromises the lives of many people and is also incredibly illegal according to the American government. Julian Assange should serve the same punishments as all other criminals. Our first speaker has already explained how WikiLeaks strained the US international relationships and also the vital activities of governments in multiple countries. He also explained how the law is the law and that Julian Assange has been charged with 17 counts of espionage and 1 count of computer misuse. Our second speaker has already spoken to you how the files on WikiLeaks were sourced from Russian hackers and linked to the Russian intelligence, who have been suspected of tampering with past elections. He also spoke to you how the leaks contained very sensitive information and were illegal if leaked. So, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we, the negative team, strongly believe that Julian Assange should not be free. Thank you.
We now come to question time. For the next 3 minutes, teams are invited to take turns to ask each other questions about the debate. That is, the affirmative team will ask a question, then the negative team, then the affirmative team, and so on. A team is free to indicate if it has no questions. I now invite the affirmative team to ask its first question.
So your third speaker compared Assange, who is a criminal, to murderers, claiming that we shouldn't show them sympathy. But Julian Assange isn't a murderer, so why did you provide that example as an analogy?
As we also spoke about, Assange has cost people, more than one person, their lives and jobs and humanities, so he could honestly be considered a murderer and should suffer like a similar punishment. I had a question. So, I think the third affirmative speaker stated that the United States laws that are penalising espionage should not override the opinions of other world leaders such as the United Nations. But you also said that you also agreed and supported the United States amendments and acts. So why should just one American law be ignored when you're agreeing with the other one?
So basically, we believe, yes, he may have been convicted of that crime against the Espionage Act, but it is still a violation of his First and Eighth Amendments, so he has already suffered a heap amount of time in inhumane conditions, so he should be released because they have violated his First and Eighth Amendment, which really just isn't morally correct. So yes, we do believe he may have committed that, but even the UN, and just using as backing up our point, the UN and heaps of other world leaders and even the general public who had a rally in Boston believe he should be freed, so we're just using that to support our point. So your third speaker stated that he should serve the same time as anyone who committed the same crime, but isn't that a contradiction of your rebuttal where you stated the differences between Snowden and Assange's cases and said that they deserve different consequences, yet they did commit the same crime, leaking documents?
Well, in the Snowden case, Snowden was the source and the Guardian was the news source that published the documents. However, the difference between the two of them is that the Guardians removed the information and Assange kept it in, and that information was not relevant and it did compromise some of the rights of the people that names were in those documents. And in that case, Snowden is not in the same position as Assange because he was the one that published. Assange published the document, and Snowden was just the source, and the Guardian was the publisher. So the Guardian would be similar to Assange, and not Snowden.
The minutes is up. Yeah.
While the adjudicators finalise the result, I will read this evening's chairman's notices. We are delighted that the grand finals will be held in the House of Assembly Chamber, Parliament House, on Saturday the 25th of September 2021. The Year 9 Division debate time will be at 12 p.m. Parliament House has advised that we need to collect RSVPs for attendance. An online RSVP form is available on our website now. There is a formal security screening process to enter Parliament House. To avoid delays in start time, please allow plenty of time to arrive and give priority entry to debaters and adjudicators. Okay, so just information about the grand final. So the affirmative team is coming from room 103 and the negative team will come from room 2 or room 4. Award presentations. All grand finalists, so today's winning teams, will be invited to the award presentations to be held on Friday, the 29th of October 2021, 5 p.m. till 6:30 p.m. at Sacred Heart College, Marsden campus, our senior school. Further information will be sent to schools shortly.
We'll go outside and discuss our decision and then we'll be back.
Okay.
We have panel 3.
Okay. I invite a representative of the adjudication panel to come forward to announce the result.
Now, as you will have noticed, there are 3 of us that have adjudicated this debate tonight. So the way that that works is that we each can do our decision independently, and then we will award the debate based on kind of the outcome of who among us has awarded the debate. We also award the debating award, and so we have to just start there for a second and sort that out. So because there are 3 of us, there's no individual feedback tonight, and also you don't get to see the scores because there are kind of 3 sets of scores, obviously. So with that all out the way, firstly, I'd like to congratulate both teams on making it to the semi-finals. That's an achievement of itself, and you should both be really proud of that. So well done. With that said, though, we do have to award a winner, and tonight I can announce that by decision of 2-1, we have awarded the debate to the Affirmative team. Congratulations. Additionally, tonight we have awarded the debating award to first Affirmative speaker Annalise for quality of speech.
Thank you.
I call upon a member of the runner-up team to give a vote of thanks.
First of all, I'd like to thank the opposition team for doing a really good debate. You had really strong points, a really good argument. To the 3 adjudicators who came to the debate and came up with a result. To the timekeeper and the timekeeper and chairman who for running the debate, and the audience for coming here to support us.
I call upon a member of the winning team to second that vote of thanks.
Well, first of all, thank you to the negative team. You guys put up a really good debate, and it was really close, and it was really enjoyable for us. Then to the timekeeper and chairman for keeping track of our debate. The 3 adjudicators for giving your time to run a debate. It really means a lot for both of us, I think I can say. And of course our teachers that helped us with the debate, and our audience and family for coming and supporting us each round. Like, we wouldn't have been able to do this without you, so thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. I now declare this debate closed.